the perception is with YouTube, really the only way to make money is through AdSense and sponsorships. That's what people think. But really, there's a whole other world of businesses using YouTube in a really good way to attract ideal customers.
What are some of the non-negotiables when building these videos to have them be successful?
Just optimizing and spending a lot of time on your first 30 seconds can make or break your video.
How much money do I need to have to build a successful YouTube?
Running a YouTube channel or growing a personal brand on YouTube is the best thing. If you're any founder or if you're an entrepreneur, it's the best thing that you can possibly do for your business. Whenever you're thinking of a YouTube video, first important thing that you have to do, the very first step is...
Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Wealth. I'm your host, Andres Sanchez, and today we have Bryan Ng, the CEO and founder of Viral Bangers. We are going to give you the blueprint on how to start a business off of YouTube from 0 to 30K. Bryan is living proof of that, and I can't wait to dive in. Bryan, thank you for being on here.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to talk business, excited to talk YouTube and whatever. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Bryan is somebody who I got connected to via X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And he's been doing some really cool stuff in the space. He's very popular for script writing via YouTube and has a lot of big creators in the space that have a lot of respect for him. I've been following Bryan for some time now, and I'm really excited to actually have you here in front of us to dive in. And my goal every time, I feel like my duty to my subscribers, followers, listeners, is to talk to cool people and then figure out how to extract the stuff in their brain that helps them be successful, dumb it down so that the people listening can go and do it tomorrow and try and win. So I want to just give people a little bit of an understanding of who you are, and then let's dive deep into the YouTube business world.
Yeah, so I started my online business journey, in December 2022, just writing online on Twitter. So my base skill is copywriting or Twitter ghostwriting. That's where I got my very first start. So I wrote tweets for other people as a service at first. So I did that for about 8 months and scaled that up to about 10K a month. But eventually I didn't like the Twitter space that much, or I didn't really like writing tweets for other people because it's all short form content. And from there, I started working with a YouTube agency to learn YouTube scriptwriting, because at that time I was already running my own YouTube channel talking about how to grow on Twitter. So I sold a service helping founders grow a Twitter following. So as a way to get leads for that business, I was creating YouTube content. And I had a couple of videos get 1K to 10K views, which actually did pretty good. So there was a founder of another YouTube agency. He approached me and he was like, "Hey, can you write YouTube scripts?" I was like, "Why not?" And then I just dived right into it. Right. So that's really how I got my very first start into YouTube. This was about like August or September 2023. So I basically just worked at that agency for a period of like 5 to 6 months. I wrote a ton of scripts, and yeah, I launched my own script writing agency afterwards. I left that agency and I started my own agency with my own YouTube channel, and we basically scaled it up from there. The YouTube channel went from 0 to 1,000 subscribers in 26 days in just 3 videos, which I think is pretty good, and basically launched the whole business. And within 4 months, we were doing like 30K MRR just only off YouTube, and just me writing a couple of tweets. So yeah, I'd love to talk a little bit about how I think about YouTube and how to actually grow a business off the back of YouTube, because the perception is with YouTube, really the only way to make money is through AdSense and sponsorships. That's what people think. But really, there's a whole other world of businesses using YouTube in a really good way to attract ideal customers to work with them. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about that.
Awesome. And one thing I'm curious of, so you mentioned that you were approached by this agency and they asked you to come on and write scripts for YouTube. Did you have any experience doing that other than for yourself before you took that gig?
No, like literally no. So it was just me writing my own YouTube scripts for my own channel. And I kind of realized that my YouTube videos were actually performing better than my tweets, and I was selling Twitter as a service. So it didn't really make sense for me to continue writing tweets. And yeah, just so happened the YouTube scripts were pretty good. I made PowerPoint slides, presentations. I fully scripted out full-on sales letters that I would read out loud on camera. Those videos did pretty good, got a couple thousand views. And yeah, that was like good enough for me to land a job at the agency. And really at the agency, it was it wasn't that, okay, I came in as an expert. It was more like, hey,
Mhm.
came as a beginner. I'm just here to absorb as much knowledge as possible. So that's really like that's how I got my very first start. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And I just wanted to highlight that because I always tell people that connect with me or people that are aspiring to be entrepreneurs that listen to the show, like, don't say no to things. Like, just go figure it out. If that person would have approached you and you'd have been like, oh, well, I don't know how to write a script, or I'm not a good script writer yet. Like, no, it's okay. You would have missed this opportunity to be where you are now. But instead, you said, yeah, sure, I'd love to join because I want to learn and I want to understand what it takes to be successful on YouTube. And you took that opportunity. And now, obviously, we're talking down the road. You have a 30K a month business all about writing scripts on YouTube. So I wanted to make sure we highlighted that because I had a feeling that you sent it and just said, sure, like let me take on this task, and now you've parlayed that into a successful business.
Yeah, because for the most part, when we're starting out on any new venture, you kind of just figure it out as you go, right? And the
Hmm.
best people will just figure it out as you go, and you just do. It's kind of like the wild wild west, where if you just start out in copywriting, you just take on whatever copywriting client. Maybe you wouldn't 100% know how to deliver the specific service, but you'll be like, hey, it doesn't matter. Challenge is going to come, and I'm just going to figure out as I go. That's kind of the mentality that I've always had. It's like, okay, take it on, figure it out later. I think that's served. I think that's how a lot of the big guys got their start.
I love it. So let's talk about your thoughts on YouTube. Obviously, that's where you've built your business. There's plenty of people listening, watching right now that are considering starting a YouTube or considering starting a business. Where do the two meet for you? And what are some of the things we can start to dig into on how to be successful?
Yeah. So number one, it depends on what the play is of YouTube. How do you want to monetize the YouTube channel? And even before determining how you want to monetize the YouTube channel, it's figuring out why you even want to run a channel in the first place. Because many people go into running a channel with the mindset of, okay, I'm just gonna put one or two videos out, and then if the one or two videos don't work, that means that the niche is bad, or my titles and thumbnails are bad, and they just give up. Really, the way you want to think about YouTube is a 5 to 10 year play. It's a long-term play. Your first couple videos may not necessarily get picked up by the algorithm. A lot of the times there's like a big luck element involved in whether, okay, the first couple videos might just not find its ideal audience just because it's a completely new channel, and you just have to keep posting. And videos may take 60 days to take off. Some videos may take 180 days to take off, right? Even though it's a very good base first video, YouTube might just not find its current audience. So you really want to think about it. Okay, how can I build a channel for the long term? What's a topic that I want to talk about for the long term, right? And then afterwards, you can figure out, in what ways do I want to monetize? Would it be an AdSense play? Would it be a sponsorship play? Both of which are okay. There's huge cohorts of YouTube channels who just grow and make money off AdSense. They get hundreds of thousands of views, millions of views, and they make tens of thousands of dollars that way. Or you could kind of do my preferred method, which is what we do at the script writing agency and all of the clients that we work with, is that we grow businesses with YouTube. So we sell products, we sell consulting, we sell services through YouTube. So we create very niche content. So for example, I create script writing content. So we create niche content to build a high level of trust with a select number of ideal customers. And when those ideal customers watch your video, they'll be like, oh, this guy knows what he's doing. I'm going to book a call with him, and I'm going to ask, hey, what is it like working with you? And just like that, you can build a business. So the way that I manage to scale it, say you charge 4K a month for running Google ads for other people, right? All you need is 2.5 clients or 3 clients, and that's a 10K a month business. And literally your YouTube channel, you just post once a week, post twice a week, talking about different aspects of Google ads, right? Google ad policy changes, how to run Google ads for e-com stores, how to run Google ads for this other niche, for local businesses, and you talk about all of the different niche parts where when your ideal customer watches that video, it actually solves that problem for them, and it shows them that you are an authority and you know what you're actually talking about, right? And that's kind of my preferred way of growing a YouTube channel, and alongside it, building a business, because that way you can sell a service, you can sell consultations, and you can charge high prices for that. So you really want to figure what you want to do with that first.
Yeah, two things that stood out to me from there. One, you are so right on how videos can pop off at any time and there's no real rhyme or reason. I've posted over 250 videos on YouTube. I've posted about 65 long form. The rest are a bunch of shorts. I had some long form do decent, get over 1,000 views, like get a decent amount of engagement. Then I had one that really finally did for my channel very well. It got over 10,000 views. That video had 500 views for the first 4 months that it was posted.
Yep.
And then literally just one day to the next, I went on my YouTube and checked, and it was at 1,000 views. And then by lunchtime, it was at 1,900 views. And then by the next week, it was at 4,000 views. And it spent like a month and a half going from 500 views to now it's at almost 12,000 views, or like 11,500. And it literally was so random and out of the blue, but YouTube just found the audience that wanted it and they showed it to those people and they enjoyed it. And I think that's the cool part about YouTube is like I have 70 plus videos that are on there right now. And right now, while we're filming this episode, it could be happening to another video, or tomorrow it could happen. And I think that's like the exciting part about YouTube is like you literally never know. And like you mentioned, it's a 5 to 10 year play. I'm playing the long game here. I want to give YouTube as much content as possible during this kind of phase where it's trying to figure me out, figure out what creator I am, so that when it does find my audience, push me out eventually, hopefully, I now have tons of videos for my viewers to come back in and watch and enjoy and binge my content is the way that I'm thinking about it. And the other thing that you had mentioned that I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into is obviously you come in and you make these videos and you want to attract you want to show that you're an authority, you want to show that you have credibility, and anybody that's going to make a high quality YouTube video, and I know how hard it is, so for me it's easy to establish credibility, but for the average person they don't really get that. What are some of the non-negotiables when building these videos to have them be successful?
Yeah, that's a great question. Whenever you're thinking of a YouTube video, first important thing that you have to do, the very first step is the idea, right? Because the idea is literally, okay, what am I going to talk about in this specific video, right? What's the angle of the video? Why is my video different from everyone else's? Why should people click on the video? So it all starts with a great video idea. If the video idea isn't great, whatever you do with the title, the thumbnail, the content of the video, how much money that you spend on editing, and post-production, none of that matters, right? So literally the biggest creators spend the most amount of time on the idea and doing ideation. So you want to start with having a great idea. And after a great idea, you need to have a great title and thumbnail, because the title and the thumbnail is what you see on the homepage. So it's what gets people to click on the video. So, the very first step, good idea, and then you need to get people to click. So once you have an optimized title and an optimized thumbnail, after you get people to click, you need people to stay after they click. So literally everything's a hook, a hook, a hook, a hook. So the idea, gives birth to the title and thumbnail, which hooks the viewer in to get the click, and then the first 5 seconds should hook the viewer in again to watch the first 5 seconds, and the first 5 seconds should hook the viewer in again to watch the next 30 seconds, and then the next 30 seconds should hook the viewer in again to watch the rest of the video, right? So literally, in order of importance, it's the idea first, title and thumbnail, and then the first 5 seconds, the first 30 seconds. So that's the whole intro and the hook, and then it's the rest of the content of the body, right? And then within that, there's also the editing of the video, because you have to edit the first 5 to 30 seconds to be engaging, interesting, has good pacing, has good storytelling, has good music, has good visual effects, has good sound effects, so that it hooks them in, makes them want to watch the rest of the video, right? The script of the hook has to be enticing, because the copy has to be written in a certain way that hooks you in, also makes you curious, also makes you excited, maybe makes you a little bit scared, right? It brings out some kind of emotion when you are watching the hook and when you're watching the first 30 seconds. And then the rest of the content needs to be informative, needs to be entertaining, it needs to be educational, right? and it must overall be an enjoyable experience where the viewer leaves and they're like, hey, if you're creating educational content, I'm going to leave the video and be like, hey, this is really useful. I'm going to go apply this right now, and I'm going to go and get results, right? That's why the biggest creators have the biggest success, because the advice that they give is inspirational and actionable. That means I can go out and apply it and immediately get results. And if it's an entertainment video, there must be some sort of entertainment value, right? I must be glued onto the screen, and it must like reinvigorate me after watching it. It's like watching a movie basically. So
Yeah.
those are like all of the key elements that you really want to take care of when you're making any video. And in terms of importance, each of it's like 20%. 20% to the idea, 20% to the title and thumbnail, 20% to the script, 20% to editing, and 20% to like music, sound effects, or like the recording of the video itself. Every single part is important. And if you nail everything, it all comes together like a symphony. And ideally the video goes viral and does pretty well.
Yeah, if you ever want an example of what an engaging video looks like, or what a video that has you like attached to the screen, go watch a Mr. Beast video. Like, we talk about Jimmy as like this amazing creator and everybody knows about him. It is so impressive to like, I have an example in my head that comes to mind where my brother and I love to watch Mr. Beast. Like, we think the videos are very entertaining. He put a video out that was 40 plus minutes, and that was long for him. And we were both like, you know what, let's watch this and see if we feel like the video is too long. Before we knew it, 40 minutes was gone. We watched the whole thing. It felt like 10 minutes because we were so locked in. That's an example of like being so good at pacing the video, moving quickly, keeping viewers engaged. So if you ever wanted an example of what it looks like to hook people in, go watch a Mr. Beast video. The other thing I wanted to bring up is, if I'm listening to us have this conversation right now and I'm a business owner, or I want to start a business and I want to go on YouTube, is it expensive? Like, how much money do I need to have to build a successful YouTube?
Well, it kind of depends. Obviously, it depends on how much you want to delegate, right? So in terms of building a team, and if you're a business owner, ideally you'd want to build a team, right? You can't be scripting, you can't be editing, you can't be doing ideation, you can't be doing title and thumbnails by yourselves. All of the biggest creators have big media teams, they have big ideation teams, they have big thumbnail teams. Mr. Beast has like 4 to 6 full-time thumbnail employees just working on thumbnails themselves, like shooting them and ideating them. So like, you're gonna need talent if you want to grow a YouTube channel, right? Growing a YouTube channel is not like growing a Twitter page. Growing a Twitter page, you just get on your phone and you type a couple of tweets, and that's your work for the day, right? But with YouTube, there's kind of a lot of moving parts. Handling production for anything is complex. But in terms of the order that you want to hire for, it's number one, you want to hire an editor, because you can probably do the ideation, the title, thumbnail, the script itself, all of those you can kind of do, but editing is the thing that's the most time consuming. So the first role that you want to hire for, if you want to hit 100K subs, a million subs, the first role you hire for is an editor. And in terms of how much you pay for an editor, on the lower end, you'd be paying $100 to $200 for an edit, say like a 10 to 15 minute video. That's like on the lower end. If you really want to up the quality, on the medium end, it's about 350 to 500. And if you're paying like premium prices, it's around $500 to $1,000 per video. That's looking at it from a per video standpoint, right? And at different price points, you have different understandings of storytelling, pacing, visual effects, sound effects, and music, right? All of which are important to the whole narrative. And that's kind of what you'd expect to pay for an editor. I feel like most people don't really talk about, what's the standard rates that you pay for edits. Some people I know have a full-time editor in-house, and the editor only produces one video a month because the editor is slow and the editors pay like 4K a month. Some of that's really egregious. I've talked to some YouTube teams. Some of that is like they're just vastly overpaying. But that's kind of like what you'd expect to pay for talent, if you're working as freelancers or whether you're looking to bring someone in-house. And then after hiring the editor, the next hire that you need to have is a thumbnail designer, because the thumbnail is also really important in getting the click, right? And if you have someone who understands thumbnail psychology, who understands thumbnail design, and is really creative with it, and is willing to do a lot of research, get a great thumbnail guy. You can expect to pay $100 to $200 for a decent thumbnail, right? Anything kind of less than that, we've kind of seen kind of compromises on quality. And then the third hire you want to have is a strategist. And what that is someone to work on the overall channel strategy. So that would be looking at, video ideas that you could possibly do, video titles that you can do, drawing up thumbnail concepts, helping you improve your retention. So strategy is to help you squeeze more out of the effort that you put into your videos. And then the fourth hire will be a scriptwriter. So all in all, what you'd expect to pay, if you only have an editor, about 350 to 500 per video is what you expect. So that's about 2K a month in expenses. And then if you have a thumbnail designer, that's about 2.5 to 3K a month in expenses. If you have a strategist, could be 6 to 7 to 8K a month in expenses. And then if you have a scriptwriter, could be like 12K a month in expenses. So it really depends on what level you're at, where you can kind of hire, and yeah, you slowly just put the blocks together. You don't have to piece everything together at once when you're first starting a channel. I actually recommend that you do a lot of the stuff yourself. So you want to do a lot of the stuff yourself, do a lot of the creative work, and then you can delegate afterwards. That's how I think about it.
Yeah, and for people listening, obviously those numbers are relatively expensive, but it's just it's just real. Like that's what it costs to be successful on YouTube. It's one of the most lucrative platforms if you can crack it, but it's just one of the most challenging, quote unquote, social media platforms to crack. If you're listening and you want to hire an editor, hire a thumbnail designer, for me, I've had a ton of success finding cheaper talent that is willing to work hard on Twitter, on X. All of these, and you've got to kind of sift through the bots and different things like that. But if you tweet, hey, I need a thumbnail designer, or hey, I need a video editor on Twitter, you will get like 50 people in your DMs that want to work and are trying to work. And to me, that's a good start, because if you're thinking and listening to this and you're like, well, shit, I can't pay $2,000 to an editor all month, or I can't pay a couple $1,000s to my thumbnail, that's fine. Like there are other options. And at least in my opinion, you're better off starting with something and like posting the content and getting out there and hiring those people along the journey as you start to get better and understand, then feel like you need to like, oh shit, I need to have a couple $1,000s before I start my YouTube channel. Because I think that one, like we mentioned earlier, there's luck involved in this. I've seen shitty videos with a dumb thumbnail get a ton of views because they were in the right niche, posted at the right time. So I would say to people listening, like, if those numbers kind of scared you a little bit, like, you don't need to start there. That's obviously, we're talking about like a very successful established channel. Like if you wanted to spend X amount of dollars, that's what it would take to like have a full team delegate and take over. But go ahead and just start messing around with it and posting content and seeing if you could generate leads on your own. And then as you start to get the wheels turning, start to hire and delegate that work down the road. And that's how I think you'll see success as a creator on YouTube.
Yeah, it also kind of depends on your mindset when you go into growing your YouTube channel. So I'll give you a little bit of context. When I first launched my channel in January, I was supposed to launch it in November, but I was super perfectionist. I was like, okay, I need to have this script like super refined, right? And I paid a lot for a thumbnail. I paid a lot for a video edit. If you go look at my channel, the very first video, the edits are totally crazy. I paid in total for the thumbnail and the edit, I paid $1,000 on that very first video, right? And the channel, obviously, first video wasn't generating any revenue yet. I was still working with that agency. I was getting paid about like 4K a month. But the way that I kind of approached YouTube, and the way that I really thought about it was, okay, I'm going to spend about 1 to 1.5K every video, not including my time commitment. But if I keep doing this for a long enough period of time, right, I know that I'm surrounded with a wealth of knowledge on how to grow on YouTube. I talked to a lot of editors, I talked to a lot of thumbnail designers, I talked to a lot of strategists, a lot of these guys running all of these weird channels, gaming channels that you wouldn't even imagine. And just because I was surrounded with a lot of these knowledge, I knew that, okay, I'm going to spend 1 to 1.5K per video. Maybe it's not going to ROAS, maybe it's not going to return immediately, but if I give it enough time, right, I'm happy to just burn through money for 6 months to 12 months to 2 years. Eventually, it's going to give me some kind of return. Not every video is going to give you like the same amount of return, right? Let's say you spend 1K on one video. Maybe that video doesn't pop off, right? For some reason, maybe the idea isn't that good. Maybe the thumbnail isn't that good. sometimes that's just kind of out of your control. That's part of the YouTube game, right? Not every video is just going to go up and up, right? People think
Yeah.
of content as this exponential thing, when in reality it's not like this. It's like this, right? You go up and down, up down, up down, up down, and you slowly scale up like a staircase. But if you kind of perceive it to be like this, and you really have a steep drop in views for a couple videos, and this steep drop in views could last for a long time, right? You could have, you know, 1K views, 1K views, 1K views when you used to average 10K views for like a long period of time. And sometimes you're just trying to figure it out. Maybe the content's not that good. For some reason, the algorithm's not picking it up. You can't really do anything about it. And not every video is gonna make a return for you. But as long as you stick to it for like a long enough period of time, and you have faith that you're actually improving the videos one by one. In my head, the way that I approach it is like, okay, eventually this YouTube channel is gonna shit out a business that's gonna be doing X tens of thousands of dollars every month, and eventually it's gonna pay for it. Doesn't matter what the time frame is. So it really depends on your risk tolerance and also the way that you want to approach your channel. The way that I think about it, it's investing in it's investing in an asset that will compound eventually to something greater than what I could even possibly imagine.
Yeah, I think that's the real beauty of YouTube is the compounding effect. If you give it enough content, once it starts to finally push you out, it just continues to compound over itself if you've got quality content on the channel. And I think that talks a lot about what you said. Like, you're investing in creating quality videos over a 6, 12, 18-month period of time, knowing that when 1, 2, 3 videos take off and start to bring people to your channel, you will keep those people because you've now given them this big, big channel of quality content for them to go and find what they care about. And for 10% of those users, it might be this one video. For another 10%, it might be this other video you posted 2 years ago. And it's important to, again, and we keep highlighting it, it is important to look at YouTube like a long-term commitment. It is not like Instagram or TikTok where I might go and end this interview right now, jump on my TikTok and say, hey, I just interviewed somebody and we talked about thumbnails, and boom, I get 1 million views. And like, wow, it's like I got 10,000 followers or something like that. YouTube typically isn't like that. Like, you've got to put the time, you've got to put the energy. And obviously, like in everything, there's outliers that just happens. But I would say for the majority of the people listening right now, you will need to invest in YouTube over an extended period of time to actually see success.
Yeah,
I want
exactly. Like you definitely don't want to be afraid to just throw money at it. Obviously, there's like budget constraints and all. But I think the thing about investing in YouTube versus like investing in like TikTok, like what you said, the value per per follower, or the value per subscriber, or the value per view is much higher than compared to these short form platforms. Because on these short form platforms, when you think about, okay, what's the last 20 TikToks, or like what's the last 20 reels that you scrolled, you probably can't even remember a single one. But if I
yeah.
ask you what's the latest YouTube video that you watched, right? Maybe it's a chess video by some grandmaster, or maybe it's a League of Legends video, or maybe it's an educational video by Alex Hormozy. You can very clearly tell because you spend a lot more time with these creators, right? You can't just swipe, and totally forget all of the creators, and you have a bunch of brain rot right now. With YouTube, it's more, you're very selective about where you spend your time. And whenever you spend your time, it's usually 10 minutes at any given time, 5 to 10 minutes, sometimes even an hour with a certain creator, right? And when you spend that much time with somebody, or when a viewer or an ideal customer spends that much time with you, you build such a good level of trust, because they're like, oh, this guy actually knows what he's talking about. And if they didn't think that you know what you're actually talking about, they wouldn't watch you for 10 to 20 minutes, right? They just wouldn't invest that kind of time. So the value per follower or the value per view is much higher. So you might get 1,000 views on YouTube on a very targeted video, but that can bring you new business and your new leads for your business. But you could get 1 million, 1 million views, 1 million impressions on TikTok, and just silence, right? You wouldn't get a single DM. That's totally possible. I've seen that happen multiple times.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're spot on with that. Like, I think right now on my TikTok channel, I've got like 300,000 views over the last 90 days. And on my YouTube, I've got like 60,000 views over the last 90 days. the 60,000 on YouTube is so much stronger than the 300,000 on TikTok from an engagement standpoint, from a subscriber to follower standpoint. So it is like, I look at for me, I look at like 1,000 views on YouTube as like 10 to 50,000 views on IG or TikTok, where like the numbers are somewhat similar. It could even be like 100,000 views, because 1,000 views on a targeted video on YouTube is a lot of views if it's in a good, or it's in a small niche. I want to obviously, without having you give away all of your sauce here, I want to understand like what it looks like to write a good script. What are the necessary aspects of like what is needed in a script to be successful on YouTube? I want to give the people listening a little bit of a look under the hood.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, yeah, we literally write, at this point, like 1,000 plus scripts, over the past like 8 months, right? And that's for myself, that's for clients, and we look at all of these different niches, all the way from trading, and we have like gambling documentaries, and we have like the biggest educational channels talking about leadership, talking about drop shipping, SMA, all of these like weird different niches across 40 plus niches. So I have a thing or two to say about this. And yeah, for a great YouTube script, we really start off with the idea, right? As I said, the idea is the most important part, and the idea and the title will determine the angle of the video and the direction that we drive everything towards. So we start with the idea, right? We need to finalize the idea. If not, we don't even start writing the script. And once we have the idea finalized, let's say the idea is how to script a viral video, right? Let's say that's the title of the video, how to script a viral YouTube video. Then we go to the second phase, which is the research phase, right? And what many people get wrong about the research phase is that they'll just spend a bunch of time and researching, putting stuff into a Google Doc, and then trying to arrange it after, right? That's totally cool, right? Of course, you need to have subject matter expertise, and you want to watch a bunch of other YouTube videos. But really, with the research phase, what you actually want to do is you want to look at what other channels are doing, and you want to improve on the videos within the same topic. What do I mean by that? So let's say you're scripting how to script a viral YouTube video. That's the video that you're talking about. You go search on YouTube, how to script a viral YouTube video. There'll probably be like 5 to 10 videos that pop up. Okay. And you'll watch those 5 to 10 videos, and you'll see a couple things, right? You'll see stuff that you liked from certain videos. You'll see certain videos that perform better than others. And you're like, okay, why did this video perform better than this other video? And then you'll see stuff that you don't like. Okay, why didn't this guy talk about this? And like, I feel like he could have talked about this, right? And if you're a subject matter expertise, you would identify all of these things. So from there, you'll be able to see what you liked about the video, what the people in the comments liked about the video, what you didn't like about the video, what people in the comments didn't like about the video. And really from there, that's part of the research, because that will tell you how you can improve on the video. So let's say the comments say, hey, the storytelling isn't great, or like, oh, like this is kind of boring. Like just skip to the end, right? That's what some comments will say. Oh, just skip to this timestamp for this, right? So if you see that, oh, you can immediately tell, oh, the level of storytelling in this specific video just isn't good enough. So when you're writing your own script, then you see, okay, how can I improve on the level of storytelling? You can bring in more personal examples. You can bring in analogies. You can, bring in different forms of storytelling. You can talk about a case study and whatnot. So that's different ways of adding storytelling to your script. And that's what you really want to do in your research, is to find a thesis or to form a thesis on how you can improve on the existing content. That's really how you beat other channels in your niche, is by really out sophisticating them and really one-upping their content. So that's in the research phase. And of course, within the research phase, you'd want to gather all of the data and all of the stuff that you want to talk about. So that's phase 2. And in phase 3, you want to outline the video, right? And that just means rearranging your research. So say your research is like messy, you want to arrange it to, okay, this is point 1 that I want to talk about. This is point 2, this is point 3, and this is point 4. Outlining, relatively simple. And then from there, you can write out the full script. Really, what you want to focus on in the whole script is the first 30 seconds, because the first 30 seconds will determine whether the viewer decides to click off or they watch through the whole thing, right? If you look at the YouTube retention graph, right, there's the biggest drop off in the first 30 seconds. So you want to optimize that if you can increase that from 50% viewer retention in the first 30 seconds to, let's say, 70%, that's immediately, that's almost a 50% increase in your viewership of people who stayed, throughout the rest of the video. So just optimizing and spending a lot of time on your first 30 seconds, can make or break your video. So optimize the first 30 seconds, and then the body needs to be coherent. It needs to be points that are insightful, right? With educational content, what people make the mistake of is they just give value, right? They give value, right? Everybody says, oh, you need to give value in your content. But really, what you actually want to give is unique insights, right? And what that means is that you want to give your unique perspective on, a certain subject matter, because your unique perspective is what makes your content about you, right? It's what makes you a subject matter expertise. If you just give value like everyone else, and you're giving everyone the same, top 5 tips for doing X, or your top 5 tips for making money online, you're just going to be very generic. But if you have unique insights, if you can tell your own personal stories, if you can frame stuff in a way that, is easy to digest and is actionable and is informative and is entertaining for the viewer, I think that's what makes for a really great YouTube script. So you want to script all of that out, keeping in mind, focusing on the first 30 seconds, and also giving your own unique perspective and your unique insights. That's what will really make your video stand out.
I mean, I don't know how somebody could listen to this interview and not go and try and launch a YouTube channel. Like, I mean, you're really just detailing very, very specifically all of the things that you need to go and launch a channel right after you finish watching this video, or listening to it if you're on Spotify or one of those platforms. But I mean, this is so valuable for somebody who, and because we've got all different types of people. We've got the entrepreneur that hasn't started. We've got the entrepreneur in the middle of his journey, and we've got the entrepreneur making millions of dollars already. If you're one of the people that sits in the really doing well, or in between, and has money to spare, you are missing out big by not going and trying to launch a YouTube. If you have the cash to invest in a team to go and make it as easy as possible for you, you are missing out on so much revenue by not launching that YouTube channel. Because if you can work with someone like Bryan and other people that specialize in different areas, and you have the cash to invest, I find it hard to believe that you won't see success or a return on your investment by going all in.
Yeah, and like nothing's 100% guaranteed, right? There's no like 100% guaranteed return. It requires a lot of effort, right? It requires you to spend a lot of time thinking about it. It requires you to invest a lot of money into really solving problems, and with editors, with script writers, with strategists, with any kind of team that you're dealing with people, there will be problems that pop up. But I think running a YouTube channel or growing a personal brand on YouTube is the best thing. If you're any founder or if you're an entrepreneur, it's the best thing that you can possibly do for your business, right? And like a couple of reasons. Number one, the most obvious reason: if you create good content, it generates good lead flow for your business. That's the most obvious. But a hidden benefit that I think not many people talk about is that you can hire better talent. So my main audience is a YouTube scriptwriting audience, right? And I funnel a lot of people from my YouTube channel to my newsletter. And within my newsletter, I'll have an automated sequence telling everyone, hey, I'm hiring. You can fill up this form. So because a lot of my audience is comprised of YouTube scriptwriters, that allows me to, attract really great talents, really great people who are interested in learning YouTube scriptwriting, or are already great at YouTube scriptwriting and want to level up their game. So there will be a lot of people who you attract with your personal brand that, previously, if you couldn't fill a CTO role or like a CEO role, right, you can now fill that role because you're able to talk to more people and you have access to more people that way. And in my case, right, I get to hire talent at a good price because people want to come into my agency and learn how I do it, learn how I grow my business. And I just get the opportunity to work with so many cool people. And I've, been pretty fortunate with the YouTube channel to be able to have that, to attract that kind of caliber of talent. I don't think that many people talk about it. So even if it doesn't generate any new business, at the very least, you get your name out there. And if you manage multiple businesses and you're looking to hire talent and you have difficulties hiring talent, you're just hiring freelancers and you're going Upwork, Fiverr, you're DMing people on Twitter, you're getting a recruiter. What if you could instead put all that money that you throw into a recruiter that you potentially pay tens of thousands of dollars to, and actually build a personal brand to attract that kind of talent that you wanted in the very first place, that is something of a compounding asset that you can kind of grow.
I love that angle. I want to put you on the spot here. What would you say are 3 to 4 niches that are a no-brainer to go and jump into YouTube right now?
Yeah, it really depends, right? It depends on, if you're building a personal brand, it has to be around something that you're passionate about talking about, and that can kind of grow your business, right? And really there's a huge gap in pretty much a lot of the educational niches, right? Even in like in kind of like the broad business niche, where you're kind of competing with the big guys, like names like Alex Hormozy, and like Jordan Welch, and all these big entrepreneur names. There still is a gap for like really great content. So I wouldn't even rule that out. But really, when you're thinking about YouTube, the richest in the niche, the richest is in the niches, right? That's what everyone says. So if you can go as niche as possible and you can create good content in that specific niche, there is almost always a gap. For example, in my niche, right, YouTube script writing, I figured out that there weren't that many good videos talking about how to write great YouTube scripts. So if you can just fill that gap, that's an opportunity where you can grow a channel. In my case, I grew it to like 9K subscribers right now, and we're going to try to grow that to 100K subscribers. So it really just depends on what you're interested in, and what you really want to build a brand around. So even stuff like copywriting, right? If you're just a beginner copywriter, I have a writer on my team who literally faceless channel. He just does PowerPoint slides and simple icons, and he does a voiceover over it. And he grew his email list from 0 to 2K subscribers off like a tiny YouTube channel. And
Wow.
he makes like 4K a month selling digital products, selling like a copywriting course, which is totally mind blowing to me, right? He does a voiceover. He doesn't edit his videos. He just posts it, and he posts twice a week, and he just grows it that way. Just
That's
because
awesome.
there's like such a big gap in terms of high quality content. So I like to answer that question. I wouldn't even concern myself too much with, okay, do I go into this niche or this niche or this niche? That's more of like an RPM play, where that's more of an AdSense play, right? Where you try to figure out a niche that has a gap, and you try to get a high amount of AdSense, get a lot of views, and get a lot of AdSense from that. But really, it's more figuring out, okay, what am I passionate about? What do I like talking about? How can I fill a gap in whatever niche that I'm in, whether it's Google ads, whether it's YouTube ads, whether it's running cold email, whether it's talking about YouTube, whether it's talking about Instagram growth, and just building a brand around that and really making the best videos possible. I think that's the way to think about your niche.
I love it, and I thank you for taking my question and making it a much more relatable answer to not scare away people from starting their channels and stuff. So I couldn't agree with you more on that, and I think it really is like, don't do something you're not passionate about, because you will burn out so fast. It's just the nature of the game. Like, you're gonna have to make so much content to get to the level you probably want to be at. If you're talking about something you don't care about, you're gonna have a really hard time getting to that point. Um, as we get here to the tail end of the interview, I want to make sure that anybody that's listening now that wants to work with you or wants to potentially work with you, what does that look like for them, and what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So on December 1st, I'm launching, a course/community. It's called the Freelance Scriptwriter Academy, where it basically teaches people how to become a YouTube scriptwriter. And so this is a great resource if you're a business owner, or if you're like a freelancer and you just want to learn how to write great YouTube scripts. I go a lot more in depth. I can't cover everything in a 1 hour interview. I wish I could. I could go on about this for like hours and hours. But I cover a lot, more in depth about, script writing techniques, and, how the way I think about stuff. I break down scripts live. That I think is a huge value add for a lot of people. Just me talking through my thought process whenever I'm writing a script. I think, people always find that valuable. So I'm launching the Freelance Scriptwriter Academy on 1st of December. So they'll be on like the freelancescriptwriter.com. And yeah, if you want to work one-on-one with my agency, you can just go to viralbangers.com. That's the company name, viralbangers.com.
Okay, awesome. And this video, if you're watching this video or listening to this video right now, Brian's course is out, and I want you to go into our description, whether you're listening on Spotify or YouTube, go into the description, look for the link to join this community if it's something that you're interested in. It'll be there below. And I think if you're trying to be a script writer, learn how to write scripts, learn how to launch your own YouTube, this is a no-brainer opportunity for you to go in and learn from somebody who's absolutely crushing it in that space. That will be in the description below for wherever you're watching this or listening to this right now. Um, my final question for you, Brian,
Yeah.
is one that I ask all the time. It's funny, you're on the younger side here, so there's probably not a huge gap in your life for this question. But I love asking people, if you could go back and talk to the 18-year-old you just getting out of high school and going into college, like what would you tell that person?
Damn, that's a great question. I would say to not be so afraid of judgment, because when I started out December 2022, I remember very clearly. I was still in like the Singapore military, so I had to do like 2 years compulsory military. So I was like literally sitting on the couch. I was scrolling Twitter for like a little bit already, and I was really contemplating, okay, should I like write a launch tweet? Should I like write my very first tweet? And I didn't do it for a long time because I had my old friends from school following me on Twitter. And I didn't even post stuff on Twitter back then, but they were just following my account. You know how like friends follow friends.
Yeah.
And I was like afraid that if I tweet some stuff, they would, come to me and like start laughing at me like, oh, like look at this dude. Like why is he tweeting? So I didn't tweet for like, months and like weeks, even though I really wanted to do it. But eventually I just decided, okay, I'm gonna, remove all of my friends from like my followers and like block all of them. And then I started tweeting, and like pretty much my life changed like after that, because I managed to dip my toes into copywriting, into ghostwriting, and it really changed my life. So I think if I wasn't so afraid of like what other people thought of me, or like the judgment of other people, I would have gotten the start a lot faster. And ultimately it didn't really matter in the end. My friends still found out, and we had a good laugh about it, and it was chill. So yeah, don't be too afraid of judgment.
Yeah, and I love that answer because I think it's something that's extremely relatable for a ton of people watching and listening to this right now. Like that happens to everybody. I've talked to people that have 250 plus $1 million brands that still feel that sense of like, well, I don't want to embarrass myself. Like, I don't want people to judge me. So if you're thinking right now, as we're talking through this, and you think that that's you, understand that the person or the people you think are going to laugh at you don't care. They really just have their own life to worry about. They have their own situation to worry about. They most likely do not care and will not even know that you're doing these things that you think they're going to judge you for. So I 100% agree with Brian. Send it. Like, just go do it. Like, it
Just
doesn't
send it.
matter.
Damn right.
Just send it. So, dude, thank you so much for this conversation. I really do feel like, again, anybody could listen and watch this and launch a YouTube channel tonight if they really felt like it. And that's the goal here. So I appreciate you being so open and sharing some of what you do behind the scenes, and what it takes to really be a successful, or really what it takes to add YouTube to your business and be successful at it. Where are you most active on socials so we can make sure we send some people your way?
Yeah, so two platforms. One is Twitter or X. It's just at Boomer Bryan, Boomer Bryan, Bryn, and the same tag on YouTube. You just search my name, Bryan Ng, Bryn space Ng, and you'll find me there.
Amazing. Brian, thank you so much, dude. This has been an absolute pleasure. I cannot wait to have you on again down the road when the channel's at 100K subs. And again, thank you so much for pouring your knowledge into all of our community and all of our listeners.
Yeah, man, this is fun. I love to come back on again.
Awesome. Well, we will talk soon.